Okay,
All right.
here we go. 63. Wait, was there any, did we finish a full sentence up there? Well,
That
let me
never
read
happened.
it.
Oh, kind of.
Where does Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi state a similar opinion? Which
As it is
words?
taught in a Baraita.
A
Basically,
person can transfer an entity that has not yet come into the world. Okay, so we're gonna find some way to back that up. Okay, go ahead.
with regard to the verse, you shall not deliver a slave to his master. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says this verse is speaking of one who acquires a slave, not to enslave him, but in order to emancipate him. The court may not deliver the slave to this master, as this master has no right to enslave him. I'm confused. The Gemara asks, what are the circumstances of this case? Rav Nachman Bar Yitzhak says, for example, if the new master wrote to the slave in his bill of manumission, when I will purchase you, you will hereby acquired to yourself from now. In that case, the slave acquires himself from that moment, despite the fact that the buyer does not own him. This shows that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi maintains that a person can transfer an item that has not yet entered the world, as one can emancipate his slave before acquiring him.
Okay, I still don't quite get it, but I understand where they're
I
going.
understand what they're saying.
Like you can't be a slave forever, and you're gonna be freed at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't understand the verse that they used to back that up, but whatever. Rabbi Meir also holds that one can transfer an entity that has not yet come into the world, as it is taught in a Baraita, with regard to one who says to a woman, "You are hereby betrothed to me after I convert," or "after you convert," or "after I am emancipated," or "after you are emancipated," or "after your husband dies," or "after your sister dies," or "after your Yavam performs chalitza for you, she is not betrothed." Rabbi Meir disagrees and says she is betrothed. Rabbi Yochanan Hassan Sandlar says she is not betrothed. Rabbi Meir is smoking something. Rabbi Yehuda, oh, go ahead.
Rabbi Hanasi says that in some of these cases, by Torah law, she is betrothed. And for what reason do the sages say she is not betrothed? Due to enmity. Being betrothed to a married woman that will take effect after her husband dies can engender enmity between a woman and her husband. Giving betrothal to one's sister that depends on the death of another can engender enmity between the sisters. Nevertheless, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi maintain that one can betroth a woman who is currently forbidden to him.
Well, I thought we already proved that you couldn't, and now they're bringing it back up like you can. The Gemara asks, and let us also count Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi among those who maintain that a person can acquire an entity that has not yet come into the world. The reason it asks is that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is merely called Rabbi above. The Gemara answers, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is the same as Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Okay, well, in the Hebrew, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi is the same as Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. They are one
Yeah,
person.
because Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi are one person.
I wonder if they really have exclamation marks in ancient Hebrew.
No.
Probably not. So, okay, they're adding more people to the belief that you can buy stuff that isn't doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, they're just like separating them out. The Gemara asks, and let us also count Rabbi Akiva, as it is taught in a Mishnah, see Nadarium 85a, if a woman stated a vow to her husband, I will not produce anything for you, including the work that she is obligated to do for him, and according to the terms of her marriage contract, as that is konam, forbidden, like an offering, for me, her husband need not nullify the vow at all. It is automatically a void since she is obligated to perform those tasks.
Like having kids or something?
No, that's not something that's like obligated.
Obligated to do.
Well, generally women are not obligated towards sex or to having children, but they are obligated to like other things. I'm not quite sure what they are. Oh, probably like
Well, something that
laws
she can
of family
produce.
purity. Um, laws of family purity. So making sure that like she engages in the appropriate rituals when she's like menstruating
Oh.
versus not
But
menstruating. So
what does she have to produce for him? That's what I
IDK.
don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. I understand the enmity one. That makes me think of Musar actually, but it feels like we're going the wrong way. Rabbi
You
Akiva
are becoming
says,
the wrong way with Musar.
no, we're going the wrong way with allowing someone to be betrothed even while they're still married.
Yeah.
Rabbi Akiva says, He should nevertheless nullify the vow, as perhaps she will exceed the required amount of work and do more for him than is fitting for him to receive. Ooh, that's a Musar thing. People need to be able to receive a certain thing, and if someone is not open to receiving, like, then they're not, and you can't give it to them.
Ooh.
Just like pearls before swine, basically. If she does more than the fixed amount of work that a woman is obligated to perform for her husband, the vow will be valid with respect to the excess to which he is not legally entitled, and he might inadvertently come to benefit from something that is forbidden to him. That excess is an entity that has not yet come into the world. Okay. The Gemara rejects this suggestion. Wasn't it already stated with regard to this ruling that Rav Huna, son of Rav Yehoshua, said, this is referring to a woman who says, let my hands be sanctified to their maker. She sanctifies her actual hands, and these hands exist in the world. Therefore, the vow takes effect.
I don't understand.
Anything that she does, wait, she sanctifies her actual hands, and these hands exist in the world. Therefore, the vow takes effect. So anything she does is too much for him. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
No, I didn't understand that at all.
I think. Well, do you want to?
Let's go back for just a second, because maybe
Okay.
I'll understand it. He should nullify the vow, as perhaps she will exceed the required.
Amount of work and
The
doing.
Gemara rejects this. Wait, that excess is an entity that has not yet come. Okay, the excess is an entity that has not yet come into the world. Got it. Got it. The excess is an entity that's not yet come into the world. And she can transfer that to him. He needs to nullify it. But the Gemara says no, because let my hands be sanctified to their maker, and those hands exist in the world. Therefore, the vow takes effect.
Yeah, but that part doesn't make any sense. It's like
I
whatever,
still
whatever she does, it's either, I guess, I don't know, is the Gemara saying whatever she does, it is enough and it's not too much?
maybe.
Uh, I
Oh,
like,
maybe it's just because her hands already exist in the world. So like her ability to work already exists in the world, and she can't, and therefore the excess doesn't actually. I don't understand. That's something we'll put
I
a pin
think the
in it.
Gemara is saying there is no excess, but I still don't understand the reasoning.
That's possible. We'll put a pin in that. I will look that up because I don't understand.
Okay, Mishnah.
Mishnah, with regard to one who says to a woman, "You are hereby betrothed to me, on the condition that I will speak in your favor to the authorities, help her address some legal matter, or on the condition that I will act for you as a laborer. If he spoke in her favor to the authorities or acted as her laborer, she is betrothed. But if not, she is not betrothed." Oh, makes sense. Love that.
He saved her from a life of crime. Oh, I want to write a story about that now. Gemara, Reish Lakish says, and this halacha applies only if he gave her an item worth one peruta at the time of the betrothal. She is
Yeah.
not betrothed via his recommendation to the authorities or via the work itself, as these are merely conditions appended to the betrothal. The Gemara asks, and is she not betrothed by the monetary value of his recommendation or action? But isn't it taught in a baraita that if one says to a woman, you are hereby betrothed to me by the monetary value you received when I had you ride on a donkey, or by the monetary value you received when I had you sit on a wagon, or by the monetary value you received when I had you ride in a boat, she is not betrothed, as she has already done the action and therefore owes him this debt, and one cannot betroth a woman with a loan.
Whoa, that is not where I thought that was going to go with that.
So just because she sat on a donkey, that was worth money?
Yeah.
It's like
I think I'm gonna be honest. I feel like this is really tongue in cheek of them, because sometimes the Talmudic rabbis are known to like do this. I feel like this is tongue in cheek. I don't think we should be taking this seriously, because earlier they're talking, because this is where I thought it was gonna go, right?
huh?
Like you have to, in order to be betrothed, there has to be some sort of monetary exchange.
Yeah.
But the idea that he's going to speak to the authorities for her, that's not a monetary exchange. So he also has to give her this peruta, and then merely that's just an addendum, like he says, I'm also going to do this for you. And so when they said all of those things, now she owes him a debt, and you can't betroth the woman with a loan. I really think that was their way of just like writing this off really fast and being like, oh no, that doesn't work because it already happened.
But
But I don't know. Like,
with a loan?
because I can't imagine that they seriously consider that a loan.
The fact that she rode a donkey or sat on a wagon, that's supposed to be the loan.
Right. I
And she,
don't think so. I think this is their way of saying you can't just do nice things for a woman and then think she has to be betrothed to you. I feel like this is like saying, I really do feel like this is them being tongue in cheek, and this is them saying just because he takes you out to dinner doesn't mean you have to sleep with him.
well, good. Okay. As long as we can
That's
interpret
what
it that way, it's a win for the woman.
I could. It's a win for the woman, but I could be wrong. This might not be a win.
I don't know. But like, because isn't your, like, say you are an influential person with the authorities or whatever, and you got somebody out of trouble, your word is kind of worth something, especially if you're a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, your word is
But
worth
they
something.
they say it's not because you can't betroth her with that.
Well, and also, I mean, modern sensibility says that like you can't put a price on like being kind, like just because you're being kind to somebody
Yeah,
in
that's true.
marriage. And that's like my modern sensibility. So like I don't know, but I still
Yeah, because
guess.
all the other ones, like showing her a field and being like, "Look, I have 200 acres here. We're betrothed now." Like, at least
And
that's
also, she
something
didn't
physical.
consent beforehand. So like he can't say I did this nice thing for you and you're betrothed to me via that, because she didn't consent to the betrothal. She just did the thing. So I think that this was their way of saying like without giving power to the woman, giving power to the woman. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because like she couldn't see anything in, like she was already in trouble with the authorities. There was nothing that she could see, like money or land or something.
Yeah,
You can't see words or the effect that someone's gonna have on talking to the authorities. I, I don't remember whose turn it is.
it's yours.
Okay, but if he says to her, "By the monetary value you will receive when I will have you ride on a donkey," or by the monetary value you will receive when I will have you sit on a wagon, or by the monetary value you will receive when I will have you ride in a boat, she is betrothed.
That's in the future.
You will receive. And
So
he
basically
would
saying
say
instead of
that.
giving you a peruta, I'm going to have you ride on a donkey. Do you accept that? Is kind of what he's saying now.
That's true. I like that. This seems like an exercise in learning English. Like when if you want your students to practice the anterior future tense, I will have you like like if you would say that here too, it is referring to a case where he gave her an item worth one peruta, the Baraita says by the monetary value, which indicates that she is betrothed via this sum. Okay, yeah, so it's she has a choice this time, and it's in the future, so I guess she can agree to it, and that's
Yeah,
riding a donkey was her life's desire, and now
that
she's
was worth one peruta. So
yeah, I'm worth marrying someone.
And furthermore, it is taught in a Baraita that if a woman says to a man, "Sit together with me and I will be betrothed to you," or perform entertainment before me, or dance before me, or perform work
Mhm.
for me like this layer of a building, the court appraises the monetary value of his action. If the action he performs for her is worth the value of one peruta, she is betrothed. But if not, she is not betrothed. And if you would say that here too, it is referring to a case where he gave her an item of worth of one peruta, and the betrothal is with that, but the Baraita says the court appraises it. If this were merely a condition, there would be no need for an appraisal. Isn't this a conclusive reputation of the opinion of Lakish? What would your
Here it's saying that he will do the action if the action he performs for her is worth the value. But here up here it's like saying that she should be the one dancing, not him.
no. She's saying if you do this thing for me. She's asking him to dance.
If a woman says to a man, okay, dance before me. Oh, that'd be funny. Okay. Isn't this a conclusive refutation? We'll find out. The Gemara answers that Reish Lakish could have said to you, this Tana of the Baraita maintains that the obligation to pay a person's wage is incurred only at the end of the period for which he was hired. Consequently, she is betrothed via money rather than by a loan. And the Tana of our Mishnah maintains that the obligation to pay a wage is incurred continuously from the beginning of the period he was hired to its end. Since the debt accumulates throughout the duration that the service is performed, by the time he has finished the work, she owes him the entire sum, and the debt cannot be used for a betrothal. She owes him money, so
Oh,
that means that she must pay him. He can't pay her for.
and that can't be used for a betrothal because you can't betroth a woman with a loan.
Yeah, yeah. Although that seemed to be the other way around first, that he would give her money and she'd have to pay it back. But I mean, yeah, it's always the man giving the money, though. I don't know, whatever.
The Gemara asks, and what forces Reish Lakish to establish this Mishnah in accordance with the opinion that the obligation to pay a wage is incurred continuously from the beginning of the period he was hired to its end, and that it is referring to a case where he gave her the value of one peruta? Why does he reject the possibility that the Mishnah is referring to one who did not give an extra peruta, and instead he betrothed her with the value of the service he performed, in accordance with the opinion that the obligation to pay a person's wage is incurred only at the end of the period for which he was hired?
Why does he reject the possibility that the Mishnah is referring to one who did not give an extra peruta? Well, we'll find out. Why did they even raise that point? The Gemara replies, Rava said that the Mishnah was difficult for Reish Lakish. Why does the Tana specifically teach on the condition? Let him teach by the monetary value as stated in the Baraita. Rather, conclude from it that any statement of on the condition is referring to a stipulation, and therefore the Mishnah must be dealing with a case where he has already given her the value of one peruta. Okay. Consequently, the value of his service cannot be the money for the betrothal itself, and instead serves as a later condition.
Mm.
The money, okay, the value of his service cannot be the money for the betrothal itself. So
It's a
him dancing is not good enough to serve as money, and
it's not good enough to be like the peruta that you have to give in order to be betrothed.
he has to give her actual peruta and
Yes,
maybe dance because she asked for it.
exactly.
Okay.
Mishnah. With regard to when he betroths a woman and says to her that the betrothal is on the condition that my father will want this betrothal, and if his father wants it, she is betrothed. But if not, she is not betrothed. If the father dies, she is betrothed, despite the fact that he did not reveal his wishes. If the son dies, one instructs the father to say that he does not want the betrothal, so that the betrothal will never have taken effect, thereby enabling her to avoid the requirement of levirate marriage. That's actually really nice. I'm really glad that they said that.
Yeah,
I really like that, actually. Good job, Mishnah.
I
A
know.
win for the woman.
If the son dies. Okay. What is the meaning of on the condition that my father will want this betrothal? If we say it means they are not married until his father says yes, indicating his agreement, then say the middle clause of the Mishnah, if the father dies, she is betrothed. But how can she be betrothed? After all, he did not say yes, and the condition was not fulfilled. Rather, the phrase on the condition that my father wants this betrothal means on the condition that my father will remain silent and will not object when he hears of the betrothal.
Oh,
On the condition that my father wants this betrothal. Okay. So either he wants it and says yes, or he remains silent. And then you can betroth her either way.
oh.
Wow. It's a win for the young man who really wants the woman, I guess. But if this is the case, say the last clause of the Mishnah. If the son died, one instructs the father to say that he does not want the betrothal. Why should this matter? After all, he remained silent when he first heard about it. Clearly, his mere silence does not constitute agreement. Rather, one must say that the phrase, on the condition that my father wants this betrothal, means that he said to her, on the condition that my father will not object to this betrothal at any point in time.
Oh, because after he dies, then he has a wow.
Yeah, because, yeah, if you want to fully answer all the legal things.
The Gemara asks, wouldn't this mean that the first clause of the Mishnah describes one reason, i.e., one set of circumstances, and the middle clause and the last clause describe one other reason? Rabbi Yanai said, yes, this is so. Reish Lakish said, conclude from his statement that according to the opinion of Rabbi Yanai, one forces a Mishnah to be explained as the following two reasons, and in accordance with the opinion of one Tana, rather than establishing a Mishnah as following the opinions of two Tanim and one reason. In other words, an interpretation that maintains the unified attribution of one Mishnah is preferable, even if one is thereby forced to say that it addresses different situations. So basically, we're allowed to reinterpret something to say that it means something else if it's unifying.
Yeah. So it apparently is a wait. What was the if you explain as following two reasons in accordance with one Tana versus two Tanaim and one reason. Okay. So yeah, they'd rather have one Mishnah explaining two reasons rather than
Yeah.
whatever. I understand. Okay. Rav Yosef Bar Ami said, actually, the entire Mishnah is addressing one reason,
Uh-oh.
i.e., one case. And what is the meaning of on the condition that my father wants the betrothal? It means on the condition that my father will not object from now and until 30 days have elapsed. His silence for 30 days indicates his acceptance of the betrothal. I don't know where they come up with these numbers from.
Is this the idea that like now we have to post the wedding on the like church doors? Like obviously we're Jews, so that's not something we do. But like, do we have to? Is this where the Christians came up with the idea that like you need to post that your wedding is going to happen on the church doors and people read it and then they have a chance to object?
I didn't know that that was a thing, but that it sounds cool.
It
It
definitely
sounds it sounds correct.
that's also where they came up with the idea that like if anyone here has any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace.
That makes sense. There must be some Jewish equivalent. I mean, I guess it's in the Talmud, so maybe they did do this.
With regard to a man who said, I betrothed my minor daughter to someone, but I do not know to whom I betrothed her. And one man came forward and said, I betrothed her. His claim is deemed credible. If two men stepped forward and this one said, I betrothed her, and that one said, I betrothed her, they must both give her a bill of divorce to render it permitted for her to marry anyone else. And if they so desire, one of them gives her a bill of divorce and the other one may marry her.
What if they both want to marry her? How can the person not know who he betrothed her to?
Really bad.
He forgot. It was like a drunken night, and he was like, "Oh, you seem rich enough. I think I'll betroth my daughter to you."
Life to l'chaim.
Gemara. Rav says, when the Mishnah states that the claim of one who says that he betrothed this girl is deemed credible, it means that he is deemed credible to the extent that he may give her a bill of divorce, but he is not deemed credible to marry her. Okay. How can he betroth her but not marry her? He is deemed credible to give her a bill of divorce, as there is a presumption that a person sins only for his own benefit. No one is suspected of sinning when he does not stand to gain from it. Since he is not allowed to marry her himself, we do not say that he lied without purpose, but he is not deemed credible to marry her, as we say that his inclination might have overcome him, leading him to falsely claim that he is the one who betrothed her. So now
I
they don't
forget.
trust any of the people that come forward.
Right, they're saying if there's two people, one of them is lying, which means neither of them are deemed credible enough to marry her.
So the Mishnah said things were fine. The Gemara now says things are not fine.
Rav Asi disagrees with Rav's interpretation of the Mishnah, which is understandable, and says he is deemed credible even to marry her, as he would not dare to lie directly to the father of the girl he claims to have betrothed. As Rav Asi concedes in the case of a woman who says, I became betrothed, but I do not know to whom I became betrothed. And one man came and said, I betrothed her. He is not deemed credible to marry her. In this situation, she might have agreed to collude with him, as the Gemara will explain.
Not a win for the woman.
Not a win for the woman.
No, it's not. Like, because now
Exactly,
the
it's not. That's what I
yeah,
said.
it was fine when the father said so, but now not the daughter.
So I have to say, if some girl was like, I betrothed myself to someone and I don't know who, that would be less understandable to me than a father being like, I was really drunk and betrothed my daughter at some point, but I don't remember to
Yeah,
who.
for her to be like, I don't know who I became betrothed to, that makes so much more sense because there's like all these marriages even today, like in India, where they get to the altar, they didn't know who they were marrying until that day. Ugh. But yeah, apparently it's
Okay.
not credible. The Gemara raises a difficulty. We learned in the Mishnah that if they do so desire, one of them gives her a bill of divorce and the other one may marry her. This is apparently a conclusive refutation of the opinion of Rav, who says that he may not marry her. The
Yeah.
Gemara answers, Rav could have said to you, there in our Mishnah it is different, as since there is another person with him also claiming to have betrothed her, he is afraid to lie. Well, one of them could be lying.
I mean, one of them has to be.
Yeah.
The Gemara comments, It is taught in a Baraita in accordance with the opinion of Rav Asi. If a man said, I have betrothed my daughter to someone, but I do not know to whom I betrothed her, and one person came forward and said, I betrothed her, he is deemed credible even to marry her. If that person married her and another man came forward and said, it was I who betrothed her, it is not within the second man's power to prohibit her to her husband.
It is not within the second. Well, yeah, because now they're married, so that's it.
Yeah.
Now he owns her.
Oh, God. You said that with your mouth.
Yeah, well, it's the Talmud. I mean, you gotta speak to the times. The Baraita cites another case with regard to a woman who said, I became betrothed, but I do not know to whom I became betrothed. And one man came and said, I betrothed her. He is not deemed credible to marry her. Why not? Because she is protecting him. Perhaps she decided only now that she wants to marry him, and is therefore identifying him as the man who betrothed her, although she knows it was someone else. The same suspicions do not arise in the case of a father who has no inclinations in this regard.
Why does the father not have any inclinations in this regard, but the woman does?
I know the father could totally be like, "Oh yeah, you're the richer one. You're the one. Yeah, you're the one that was totally like betrothed to my daughter." He has inclinations.
A dilemma was raised before the sages. I sure hope one was. In the case of the Mishnah, where the father claims to have betrothed his daughter to someone, what is the halacha with regard to stoning based on the father's account? Is a father who says, I betrothed my daughter deemed credible to the extent that she is stoned as an adulteress if she engages in sexual intercourse with someone? No. Rav says the court does not stone her, thank God. And Rav Asi says the court. I don't like
Asi
Rav Asi.
sucks.
Rav Asi says the court stones her.
The Gemara elaborates. Rav said that the court does not stone her because
Good.
when the merciful one deems the father credible, when he says he betrothed his daughter, this is referring only to the prohibition against her marrying anyone else. By contrast, with regard to killing her, the Torah did not deem him credible. Rav Asi said the court stones her, as the merciful one deems the father credible with regard to all matters, including the death penalty. Rav Asi says, and I concede in the case of a woman who says, I became betrothed, that the court does not stone her on the basis of her own admission. So they're not stoning her for the case of herself. They're stoning her for the case that the father must be correct.
So it's not that. They're saying, well, yes. They're saying that if the father betrothed her, but she engages in sex with somebody else, the court will stone her. But if she says, I became betrothed to the same person that she had sex with, then the court doesn't stone her?
No, that's not what I understand. Like,
I don't understand.
the father, the God deems the father credible when he says he betrothed his daughter. This was referring to the prohibition against her marrying anyone else.
But
Rav.
God doesn't deem him credible when it comes to killing her.
The court stones. Rav Asi said the court stones her as the merciful one deems the father credible with regard to all matters.
Killing her and betrothing her.
Court does not stone her on the basis of her own. I still don't see it your way.
That's so valid.
Let's see.
I don't know that even I see it my way.
Let's see.
It's thought I
is elucidated here.
And Rav Asi, who is a poopy face. On the internet. These halachot of mine are roof breakers, i.e., they're difficult and not incomprehensible. I agree. Rav Asi, I agree with you. It is incomprehensible. Rav Asi explains, now, in a case where a father said, I have betrothed my daughter to someone, but I do not know to whom, where if someone came to marry her, he is deemed credible and may marry her, which means you say that the court then stones her on the basis of the father's testimony if she later commits adultery. It is not logical that the court should stone her in a case where the woman said, I became betrothed, but I do not know to whom, thereby prohibiting herself to everyone to the extent that if someone came to marry her, he may not marry her.
Well, if someone becomes her husband, they're now the husband. How can she be accused of adultery? But that is not so, i.e. Rav Asi's rulings are in fact reasonable. The merciful one deems credible a father who says that his daughter is betrothed, and therefore she can even be stoned, but the Torah did not deem her, i.e. the woman herself, credible in this regard. She does not receive a special degree of credibility And although she can declare herself a forbidden item, she can render herself forbidden to all men. As far as punishment is concerned, her claim is treated by a court in accordance with the regular rules of evidence.
Okay.
The only evidence here would be that somebody has to prove that they were betrothed first.
Yeah.
But okay, so I guess she's still open for stoning.
And Rav Chisda said, both in this case, when the father says, I betrothed my daughter, and in that case, when she herself says, I became betrothed, the court does not stone her. Thank you, Chisda. The Gemara comments, and Rav Chisda follows his standard line of reasoning, as Rav Chisda says, that if a father declared this son of mine is 9 years and 1 day old, or this daughter of mine is 3 years and 1 day old, and the son engaged in intercourse, that's a child.
Oh my God.
Intercourse with a woman forbidden to him, or the daughter engaged in intercourse with a man forbidden to her, that's a child, is deemed credible concerning the children's ages with regard to the requirement for the adult to bring an offering if they performed the act unwittingly, but not with regard to their receiving the punishment of lashes, and not with regard to other punishments. I don't like this.
What?
I don't understand what's happening here. I think I put a veil of non-understanding on myself.
So all I understand is that the father's only crime is that he was deemed credible because he knew the ages of his children. That's about it. He knew how old his kids were, and everybody else has to bring a sin offering or something for having sex with children. They must bring an offering if they perform the act unwittingly.
I really don't like this. I'm really upset, and I really need to read on.
Okay. The Gemara comments, it is taught in a Baraita in accordance with the opinion of Rav Chisda that if one said, this son of mine is 13 years old and 1 day, or this daughter of mine is 12 years old. Wait, can we make sure that the Hebrew was, can you go look, do you want to see?
Let me look at the Hebrew. You're right. Let's do it this way.
Maybe they translated it weird. Now that we're talking about 13 and 12, do you see 13 and 12, or is it really 9 and 3?
So, Rav Chisda said 1 here and 1 there. In Suklin, don't stone her. As da Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda that follows the Ta'amea. That's forbidden. What? No, Ta'amea doesn't mean that. Demar Rav Chisda, Benize ben Tesha, it says 9.
Wow.
1 day.
Then we're not going to continue with that one.
I don't like it.
Well, so now the son is 13 and the daughter is 12. We're going to go on to 64.
And now they're adults.
Yeah. The father is deemed credible concerning the ages of his children with regard to vows. Any vow they make is valid. And with regard to dedications, if they consecrate an item by saying it should be dedicated to God, and with regard to consecrations and with regard to valuations, vows to donate to the temple treasury the fixed valuation of oneself or others. In all these cases, their vows are valid, but the father is not deemed credible with regard to lashes of the court or with regard to other corporal punishments for transgressions they have committed, as the testimony of one witness, especially that of a family member, is insufficient for this purpose.
Oh, that's nice.
Because they're adults now, and so the father is not on the hook anymore?
Yeah, well, he's not on the hook, but also he can't speak against them.
Okay, well, it's a little bit better.
I don't know. If they were talking about children having sex at 9 and 3, that stresses me out.
I know, that's really weird. Keep going.
Okay. Mishnah, if a father says, I betrothed my minor daughter to someone, or I betrothed her to someone and accepted her divorce when she was a minor girl, and she's still a minor girl at the time of the statement, he is deemed credible to render her forbidden to all other men as a married woman, or to a priest as a divorced woman. But if he says, I betrothed her to someone and accepted her divorce when she was a minor, and she's an adult woman at the time of this declaration, his statement is not deemed credible. Likewise, if he says she was taken captive and I redeemed her, he is not deemed credible to disqualify her from marrying a priest, whether she was a minor girl or an adult woman. Why in that case? Because I like the idea that she's an adult now, so she can make her own decisions. And so her father's not deemed credible over her. but I don't understand why he's not deemed credible what if she was taken captive and he redeemed her.
Yeah, I don't get why you would also betroth somebody to someone and then be like, just in case, can you also give me the bill of divorce? Just
Just like in case he's
like she grew. I mean, unless this is a case of like my daughter grew up and decided she didn't want to marry you, so there you go. Like that would be nice. Gemara. The Gemara asks, what is different in the first clause of the Mishnah and what is different in the latter clause?
my same question, Gemara.
Why is the father deemed credible when she is a minor, but not when she is an adult, or to testify that she was taken captive? The Gemara answers, in the first clause, it is still in his power to betroth her, and therefore he is deemed credible when he says that he did so earlier. By contrast, in the latter clause, it is not in his power to betroth her, as one cannot betroth his adult daughter. Likewise, as it is not permitted for him to disqualify her by handing her over to a Gentile, that's the only way to be a slave, I guess. Either when she is a minor or when she's an adult, he is not deemed credible when he says she was taken captive. So simply because I guess a Jew cannot give their own child over to be a slave, this is why like this case would just never come, and so that's why he's not seemed credible.
Here's the idea: like she was taken captive. Like I'm assuming he didn't give her over to be like made a cat, but I guess
Well, yeah,
maybe
he's not permitted to hand her over, so
so maybe he just failed in his duties as a dad. So now he's
yeah, or if he said that he did so, he's now not credible or something. I don't know.
the Gemara asks, but does the father not have the power to disqualify his daughter? But does the father not have the power to disqualify his daughter? But it's in his power to marry off his minor daughter to halal, the son of a priest who married a woman prohibited to him, which thereby disqualifies her from marrying into the priesthood. The father should therefore be deemed credible when he claims that she was taken captive. Meaning, okay. So there's bad status against being taken captive. So him saying that disqualifies her from certain things. So they're not going to believe his testimony over her because they don't want these bad statuses to happen to her. So they're not believing his testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what this question is here. I like it when I actually understand Talmud and I'm not just frustrated.
Yeah.
But this one they're saying, but he should have the power to disqualify her. He should be deemed credible because he can disqualify her from a certain thing, which is the power to marry off his daughter to a halal. The Gemara responds, your turn.
Why are they so always? They're always like talking about marrying off. Like what's so special? Like the woman has to be set aside to marry a priest, and she has to be like somewhat like defiled in a way in order to marry a priest.
No, not defiled. Opposite of defiled.
There's got to be something wrong with her that she can't marry a normal person.
No. It's the other way around. If there's something wrong with her, she can't marry a priest. If there's nothing wrong with her,
it's about the son of a priest who married a woman prohibited to him.
yeah. So this is exactly what they're saying. They're saying he's disqualifying the girl from being able to marry into the priesthood because he let her marry the son of a priest who married a woman who was forbidden to him, so that he's not actually this man doesn't actually have that priesthood status anymore. And so doing that to her is disqualifying her from marrying into the priesthood.
Is a halal then a priest who is like not a priest anymore?
The son of a priest who married a woman prohibited.
Okay, specifically the son of a priest.
Yes.
Okay. The Gemara responds, this is not difficult, as one can say that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Dostai ben Yehuda. I've never heard that name before. Who says, the daughters of Israelites are a ritual bath of purity for individuals of halal status.
Oh.
That's really nice. In other words, an Israelite woman who marries a halal purifies their children, i.e. renders their children fit, in that any daughter born to them is qualified to marry a priest.
Wow.
The woman herself does not become disqualified by her intercourse with the halal, and she may marry a priest if her husband dies. Okay.
Wow.
If so, the father does not have the power to disqualify his daughter from marrying into the priesthood.
That's true.
So it's like this man was the halal was like disgraced, and he married like a woman, and now the woman is like so virtuous that she made something good out of his
That
woman.
is so unbelievably common in Jewish tradition. Is like everything is like elevated through the woman.
Good.
Like really common.
I like it.
Uh-oh. The Gemara
Oh.
challenges, I saw mamzer. The Gemara challenges, but it is in the father's power to marry her off to a mamzer, thereby disqualifying her from the priesthood. The
Oh.
Gemara answers, this Tana is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says betrothal does not take effect, even with those women with whom one is only liable for violating a prohibition of engaging in intercourse and not a more severe prohibition that would render one liable for karet or capital punishment. So betrothal does not take effect with a mamzer.
And what is that again?
A mamzer, I want to make sure I say it exactly right. A mamzer is a person who is born of forbidden relationships, such as incest
So
or adultery.
not well, they could be a bastard.
They are a bastard. That's
Okay. I feel like I've heard that as a translation before. This Tana, but it's more than just that if they're born from incest or something too.
oh, it could be incest or it could be adultery.
This Tana holds in accordance with. So yeah, the father could do that. He could. He
I'm
does
saying
have the
you can't do
power.
that. Betrothal does not take effect with a mamzer.
Oh wait, but they're. Oh, it says it's in his power to marry her off. But oh, then it answers. Okay. But with these women. So you would have to know that the person is a mamzer, though. The Gemara further challenges, but it is in the father's power to marry her off as a widow to a high priest. And this, how can you automatically marry and become a widow? And this is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Simai, as
No,
it is.
so like she was already widowed, but he still has the power over her because she's been widowed, so now he can marry her to somebody else.
Oh, never mind. As it is taught in a Baraita that Rabbi Simai says, in all cases, Rabbi Akiva deems the child a mamzer, i.e., he considers the offspring of all forbidden acts of intercourse to be mamzerim, apart from a widow to a high priest, as the Torah stated with regard to a high priest, a widow shall he not take, and he shall not profane yechalel his seed. From this verse it is derived, he renders his children chalalim by means of this relationship, but he does not render them mamzerim. Since this act of intercourse does not produce mamzerim, Rabbi Akiva agrees that betrothal is effective in this case.
Okay.
Okay. So she was already a widow. I guess it's something for her to do. Like, she can't do very much now that she's a widow.
The Gemara answers, the Tana of the Mishnah holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yeshivav, who says, come, let us shout at Akiva ben Yosef,
Let's show it, come on.
who would say, in every case where a Jew may not engage in intercourse with a particular woman, and he does so, the offspring that results from this union is a mamzer. This indicates that, according to Rabbi Akiva, all acts of forbidden intercourse produce mamzerim. Consequently, betrothal is of no effect in the case of any prohibition, including a widow to a high priest, which means that the father cannot disqualify his daughter from the priesthood. Basically, they're just fighting back against it, and they're saying, you're wrong. Akiva is wrong.
Okay. The Gemara asks, this Mishnah can work out well, even according to the opinion of Rabbi Yeshivav, if he states a reasoning of his own, i.e., he states an independent statement critical of Rabbi Akiva's ruling that the child of any illicit union is a mamzer. Then the ruling of the Mishnah is well, as it is a categorical statement that applies to all illicit unions. But if he comes to exclude the reason of Rabbi Simai, i.e., he means to take issue with the ruling of Rabbi Akiva in the specific case mentioned by Rabbi Simai, that of a widow to a high priest, then Rabbi Yeshivav too concedes that according to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, betrothal does not take effect in a case where a positive mitzvah is violated by the betrothal. Good. Accordingly, it is in the father's power to marry her to those with whom intercourse renders them liable for the violation of positive mitzvot, as Rabbi Akiva's principle does not include cases of this kind. It is in the father's power to marry her to. Well, okay, so he can still do this, the father.
Rav Ashi says, and how can you understand it that way? Can it be that the reason for the halacha in the first clause of the Mishnah is because it is in his power? Although it is in his power to betroth her, it is not in his power to divorce her. And furthermore, if this one, the prospective husband, says that it is not satisfactory for him to betroth her, can her father betroth her to him against his will? A father cannot betroth his daughter to whomever he chooses without taking the man's wishes into account. This is true.
Good.
Win for the man.
Yeah. Both of them, yeah. Rather, Rav Ashi says in the first clause of the Mishnah, the reason is that the merciful one believes him. In accordance with the opinion of Rav Huna, as Rav Huna says that Rav says, from where is it derived that a father is deemed credible to render his daughter forbidden as a betrothed woman by Torah law? As it is stated, I gave my daughter to this man. In Deuteronomy. When the father said that he married her to the man, he rendered her forbidden to all men. When he then said this, he rendered her permitted to this specific man, her husband. Okay.
Oh,
Well, where is it deemed credible a father to render his daughter forbidden? Because he chose one specific man.
yeah.
Okay.
Rav Ashi explains the ruling of the Mishnah. The merciful one deems the father credible with regard to marriage, whereas he does not deem him credible with regard to a captive. The Torah did not grant the father any special credibility with regard to the claim that his daughter was taken captive. Right.
Yeah. Who would say yes to that? Mishnah. With regard to one who said at the time of his death, I have children, in which case his wife does not require levirate marriage after his death, he is deemed credible. But if he said on his deathbed, I have brothers, indicating that it is prohibited for her to marry anyone else until one of his brothers performs chalitza with her after his death, he is not deemed credible.
That's a win for the woman too.
Simply because how though? Like how is this different? Why is
So because because this like death sentence that he says on his death, not death sentence, but the sentence that he says at his deathbed would require her, in the case of saying I have brothers, to have something done in order for her to be like free, versus it would just free her. They're going with he's deemed credible for something that would just free her, but for something that would require her to go through more like steps and rituals, he's not deemed credible.
but credible now in what way?
Like it, as if he should be believed without any other evidence.
Because all of the other times we've been talking about like chalitza seems to be really important, and now suddenly it's like this is a way out for the woman.
Well, no, because Chalitza would force her to have to find this brother, this Yavam, and that could be really tedious and taxing, especially if the only witness to that is the man who died. Like if he just says out of nowhere, "I have a brother and we've never seen him, we don't know who he is," the
Yeah,
community.
because it only seems to work that way if we've never seen and never knew
That's
that he
exactly
was.
what all of this is like. Whether he's deemed credible and there's no other evidence.
Yeah, so they're probably going to talk about that now.
Yeah.
Gemara. I think it's your turn.
Oh, Gemara. Apparently, one can infer from the Mishnah that a husband is deemed credible to render his wife permitted, but he is not deemed credible to render her forbidden. Right. The Gemara suggests, shall we say that the Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Natan? Who's Rabbi Natan?
No, where did he come from? As it is taught in a Baraita, if someone said at the time of his betrothal that he has children, but at the time of his death he says that he does not have children, or if he said at the time of betrothal that he does not have brothers, and at the time of death he said he has brothers, in both cases he is deemed credible to render her permitted, i.e. to release her from the obligation of levirate marriage on the basis of his first statement. But he is not deemed credible to render her forbidden based on his last claim.
Cool.
What if he was like, weirdly forget, like a weird Alzheimer's kind of thing, and he just made this up in his mind, like some kind of
Well, that's
stupid
exactly what they're saying. Is they're saying like it's fine if she's deemed permitted to other people, but
That's true, yeah.
it doesn't matter.
That's
We'll
true.
give
Okay,
her
so yeah, it does save her from that, dementia. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. Rabbi Natan says he is deemed credible even to render her forbidden.
No, Rabbi Natan. Ruining everything. Rava says there in the Baraita, it is different. Since at the time of his death he retracted his initial statement, therefore one could say it is likely that he spoke the truth. In general, however, he is not deemed credible to render her forbidden. Abaya says to him, and isn't all the more so that he should be deemed credible in this case? Abaya elaborates, now consider, if if there, where he weakens his previous statement, as he now says the opposite of his earlier claim, nevertheless you say that he spoke the truth. In the case of the Mishnah, where he does not weaken his earlier statement, as he had issued no prior claim about having or lacking children or brothers, it is not all the more so that he should be deemed credible.
Is it? Yeah. Is it not all the more
It's
so?
not all the more so that he should be deemed credible.
Rather, Abaye said the Mishnah is referring to a case where we do not have a presumptive status with regard to possible brothers of his. And likewise, we do not have a presumptive status with regard to his children. The court has no prior knowledge as to whether the dying man has brothers or children. As we say, since we do not have presumptive status with regard to either children or brothers, if he said, I have children, he is deemed credible, whereas if he said, I have brothers, he is not deemed credible. Why? It is not in his power to render her forbidden to everyone, a counter to the presumption that he has no brothers. By contrast, the Baraita is referring to, and this is the last for today,
A case where we have a presumptive status that he has brothers, but we do not have a presumptive status that he has children, although no full-fledged testimony has been submitted for either claim. As is the case, we say, and apply the logic of, why would I lie? In other words, if he were lying, he would, wait, I really want to see. It literally says, why would I lie? Mali lo sheker. Why would I lie? Okay. Sorry. In other words, if he were lying, he would have stated a more credible claim or performed an action achieving this desired result. The Gemara explains, for what reason is he saying that he has children or that he has no brothers, if not to exempt her from a yavam? But if so, he can say to her instead, I exempt you by means of a bill of divorce. Consequently, it can be assumed that he is telling the truth when he says that he has children.
yeah, just the same as I don't know. But one of the kids came up to me when it was saying something about her brother, and that another kid in the class didn't believe that she had a brother. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's something silly like that. And I was like, why would he not believe you? Like, why would you lie about having a brother? That's especially when you're like, third graders. Like, I don't get that. In light of the above explanation, the Gemara clarifies the dispute in the Baraita. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi maintains that the claim of "why would I lie" is considered like the testimony of witnesses, and witnesses can come and uproot a presumption. Therefore, he does not have the power to contradict his previous claim and say that he has no children and render her forbidden at the time of his death. And Rabbi Natan maintains that "why would I lie" is considered like a presumption, and a presumption cannot come and uproot another presumption entirely. As a result, he is deemed credible even for the purpose of rendering her forbidden. If he says at the time of his death that he has no children, the early presumption that he had brothers but no children is reinstated.
Oh, uh-oh.
Rabbi Natan, what?
Being rude. Mishnah. In the case of a woman who betroths his daughter to a man without specification, i.e., without specifying which daughter he meant, the grown women are not included among those who might be betrothed, since he does not have the right to betroth them. A win for the woman.
Yeah.
In regard to one who has two groups of daughters from two women, i.e., one group of daughters from each wife, and he said, I betrothed my elder daughter to someone, but I do not know if he meant the eldest of the older group of daughters or the eldest of the younger group of daughters, or the youngest of the older group, who is nevertheless older than the eldest of the younger group. All of the daughters are forbidden, except for the youngest of the younger group.
Wow. Because it's the only one that's known to be the not the eldest.
Yeah, wow. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yosei says, despite the uncertainty, they are all permitted, except for the eldest of the older. As one who said elder without further specification means the oldest of them all.
Okay. Similarly, if one said, I betrothed my younger daughter, but I do not know if I meant the youngest of the younger group, or the youngest of the older group, or the eldest of the younger group, who is younger than the youngest of the older group, they are all forbidden, except for the eldest of the older group. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says they are all permitted, except for the youngest of the younger group. So this is the Mishnah.
The Gemara asks from the ruling of the Mishnah that one who betrothed his daughter without further specification certainly did not betroth an adult daughter. It may be inferred that all minor girls are included in the uncertainty if he had more than one.
One can learn from the Mishnah that betrothal that is not given to consummation i.e., where the husband may not consummate the marriage. In this case, because each of the women might not be his wife but his wife's sister, is nevertheless considered betrothal to the extent that each of the women requires a bill of divorce to render her permitted to marry someone else. Okay, this contradicts the opinion of Rava that betrothal is not given to consummation, does not take effect at all. The Gemara rejects this. Here we are dealing with a case in which there are only two daughters, an adult woman and a minor girl.
Really glad there's only two
Because
women.
we totally talked about, like, there seem to be like four girls on each side. Now they're suddenly saying there's only two of them.
The Gemara questions this explanation. So do I. But the Mishnah teaches grown women in the plural. The Gemara explains, what is the meaning of grown women? The Mishnah is not referring to a father who has more than one adult daughter. Rather, it means grown women in general. In other words, whenever men betroth one of their daughters, who are grown women, are not under consideration.
Okay, they just come up with these explanations out of nowhere, and like they're like, this is totally what the Mishnah meant.
It does feel that way sometimes.
The Gemara asks a different question. This halacha is obvious, as what are grown women doing in this context? I.e., how could it be suggested that a father could betroth to a man his daughter who is a grown woman? His authority extends only to his minor daughters. The Gemara answers, here we are dealing with a case where the adult daughter appointed her father as her agent to accept her betrothal, and he proceeds to betroth one of his daughters without specifying which one. Lest you say, with regard to this situation, that when he accepts the betrothal, he accepts it with his adult daughter in mind, as he is her agent, the Mishnah teaches us that a person does not put aside a matter from which he derives benefit, i.e., the betrothal of his minor daughter, where he keeps the money, and perform a matter from which he does not derive benefit, i.e., the betrothal of his adult daughter, where she keeps the money. A person does not put aside a matter from which he derives benefit. Okay, so what are they saying? He's doing it out of the goodness of his heart?
Yes, they're saying if a father becomes her daughter's agent or his daughter's agent, then he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart. So he's permitted to do it because he's doing it out of
Okay, well that's nice.
Yeah. Uh-oh. The Gemara rejects the suggestion.
Oh no.
Are we not dealing even with a case where the daughter says to him, as a reward for fulfilling your agency, my betrothal money shall belong to you? Why would she say that?
I know.
That the father derives benefit from the betrothal of his adult daughter as well. The Gemara counters, even so, a person does not put aside a mitzvah that is imposed upon him. The betrothal of his minor daughter to perform a mitzvah that is not directly imposed upon him. The betrothal of his minor daughter to perform a mitzvah that is not directly imposed upon him. The betrothal of his adult daughter. Since she is of age, her betrothal is her own responsibility. So he's still doing a really good deed because this was not his job, and she asked him to do it.
He does not put aside a mitzvah that is imposed on him to do a mitzvah that was like asked of him. So again, he's still doing it out of the goodness of his heart. That's nice.
Yeah.
The Mishnah taught, with regard to one who has two groups of daughters and betrothed the elder of them, but was unsure which one he meant, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yosei dispute which of them is betrothed. The Mishnah adds that the same dispute applies if he betrothed his younger daughter. The Gemara comments, and it is necessary to state this halacha in both cases, as had the Mishnah taught us only that the Tanaim disagree with regard to the first case, one might have claimed that in this case Rabbi Meir said that they are all prohibited except for the youngest daughter of the younger group. The reason is that since there is one younger than her, he calls any daughter who is not the youngest elder. Okay.
But in this case of one who betroths his younger daughter, say that he concedes to Rabbi Yosai that a father calls only that who is the youngest of all younger, as a father prefers to call all his daughter elder whenever possible. And conversely, if the halakha was stated only with regard to this case, that of a younger daughter, one might have said that Rabbi Yosei says his opinion only in this case for the above reason. But in that case of an elder daughter, you might say that he concedes to Rabbi Meir. Consequently, it is necessary for the Mishnah to specify both cases.
Okay, so they're just coming up with reasons for why they gotta say this.
Yeah.
The Gemara asks a question with regard to these opinions. Is this to say that Rabbi Meir maintains A person places himself in a situation of uncertainty, i.e., people issue statements and accept upon themselves obligations that are not clearly defined, and Rabbi Yosei maintains that a person does not place himself in a situation of uncertainty as one who only has only well-defined situations in mind. But haven't we learned that these two Tanaim state the opposite opinions? As we learned in a Mishnah, if one takes a vow that wine is forbidden to him until Passover, it is forbidden to him until Passover arrives. If he says, until it will be Passover, it is forbidden to him until Passover ends.
Uh,
What? So this person put this vow on themselves.
Basically, we put it, yeah. So we do put ourselves in positions of uncertainty because of this specific example where, like, if one takes a vow until Passover, then Passover arrives, they can have it. But until it will be it is forbidden, or until Passover has ended, it is forbidden until Passover ends. So sometimes,
So it's either that you, for example, are without wine for like from now until Passover starts, like next spring, or that you're forbidden from wine during Passover itself.
but from now through Passover.
Okay.
That's what it's kind of weird that they said it that way, because when they said until Passover ends, until it will be, it's really more like through,
Oh, okay.
the word through Passover, and instead of it will be. The Mishnah
But so
continues.
they're relating that to the daughters though. How?
They're basically saying that, like, we can sometimes put ourselves in a position of uncertainty with the way that we make our vows.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that?
The Mishnah continues, if he said until before Passover, Rabbi Meir says it is forbidden to him until Passover arrives. Rabbi Yosef says it's forbidden to him until it ends. This indicates that Rabbi Meir holds that one does not put himself into a situation of uncertainty, as despite his mention of the presence of Passover, which might be referring to any of the days of the festival, he does not mean one of the days of Passover itself, but until the arrival of the festival. Whereas Rabbi Yosef claims that his words apply to each of the days of Passover due to uncertainty. This is the opposite of the above interpretation of the Mishnah concerning the man who betroths his daughters.
The opposite of the above interpretation.
They're trying to decide how much uncertainty they place themselves in.
Rabbi Hanina bar Avdimi says that Rav says the attribution of the opinions is reversed, i.e., the rulings of the respective Tanaim in that Mishnah in Nedarim must be switched so that they accord with the Mishnah here. And it is taught likewise in a Baraita that this is the principle. With regard to any vow that has a fixed time, it applies until a set date, and one says until before that date. Rabbi Meir says that the vow lasts until that date ends. Rabbi Yosei says until it arrives. The opinions in this Baraita are in accordance with the suggested emendation. But they didn't fix anything.
Abaye said, this dispute between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yosei applies to two groups of girls, as Rabbi Meir maintains that all of them can be called elder except the youngest of the younger group. But with regard to one group, if all the girls share the same mother, everyone agrees that when the father says elder, he means the actual eldest one. And when he says younger, he means the actual youngest one. As for the middle daughter, she is called neither elder nor younger. Rather, he calls her by her name.
What a win for the middle child.
They never get a win.
No. And that's it. We'll come. Rabbi Ada Bar Matana said to Abaye, if that is so. And then that's a
No,
cliffhanger.
we'll find out.
Yay. All right. Bye.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us.